Thank you for being here. My name is Kayla. I'm a senior designer at West of Maine, and I'm here with my colleagues Josée and Sascha, and we're going to be discussing and sharing a little bit of insight today on things to know before starting your next remodel.
Things we wish you knew.
Things we wish you knew. So let's start off by telling you a little bit about ourselves and who we are. Sascha and Josée, tell us a little bit about West of Maine, who we are, what we do, and in particular, what our specialties are. Gladly.
So we specialize in offering a turnkey service for remodels, new builds, as well as full furniture projects. This is really where we take care of everything start to finish. And we also have a local design studio and showroom here in Ottawa, just off of Heron Road on Calidar. So hopefully after this presentation, if you haven't visited, you come in and say hello.
Here are just a few pictures to show you some of our projects. These are some latest ones that are actually entered into some awards this year. And a backyard project. Okay, if there are any questions, whether about our services or how we can help you on your next project, we'll be around after the presentation. So stick around, come find us. We'd be happy to chat with you. But for now, let's dive into a few key things you should know before starting your remodel. So we're going to walk you through 4 key tips to consider before your next remodel. Number 1, assemble your entire team first. Number 2, ask the right questions, and in turn, make sure they're also asking you the right questions. Number 3, know your budget and your wish list. And number 4, plan everything out before the work begins. So, number 1, assemble your entire team first. This is what we call the dream team. Sascha and Josée, tell us more about who makes up part of the dream team.
Yeah, so typically on a remodel project, there will be an interior designer, an architect, and a builder. An architect isn't always involved. It depends on the complexity of the project and what is needed in terms of skill set to accomplish your project. However, in most of the remodels that we're involved in, all 3 of these partners would be making up the dream team. So the collaborators on a project are super, super important. Let's talk about why they're so important and how it can have a big impact on your project. So a few key things here. Let's talk about the collaborative vision and coordinated design, the optimized budget and resource allocation, as well as efficiency and streamlined communication. Sascha and Josée, tell us more. Yeah, so when you assemble your entire team first, there's these 3 benefits that we find come into play. So just to elaborate on the collaborative vision and coordinated design element of it, having everyone, your interior designer, your architect, and your builder involved from the start will ensure a unified vision for the project, and all of the partners can collaborate and integrate their area of expertise, architectural elements, interior aesthetic, construction feasibility. Having everyone at the table from the start will prevent costly and time-consuming design revisions during the later stages of the project. For example, often, people will go to the architect first, they'll sort of design the layout of their project, and then they'll bring in the interior designer afterwards. Because of the tasks that are involved in our scope of work, sometimes there's furniture, selecting, or designing specific features that are going to be in the home. An example is that, let's say you want to seat 10 people at your dining table. We're going to be involved from the start to make sure that the dining room is large enough to accommodate those 10 people. Another example is windows. So the window placement and the window size is determined at the early stages, but what we're going to be thinking of is that window going to be easy to dress? Is there enough room for the drapery rod on each side of it? Is the window a standard size that you can get a window blind made?
sometimes the windows are too large, sometimes they're too small, and then you're stuck in this as an afterthought afterwards. Then you're having to go super custom, which involves more money. So having that holistic approach and involving your interior designer and your builder from the start, that way each partner can bring their unique insight and suggestions, and then you allow an innovative design and the use of materials too that are going to be involved. So that's what we mean by the collaborative vision and having a coordinated design. We're going to talk a lot about the budget at a little bit later during the presentation, but it does play a part in the early stages when you are assembling your entire team, and another reason why you want everyone at the table, so that we can create a budget that's going to align with your goals and the feasibility. So all of the partners can provide valuable input on the costs associated to their specific area of expertise. For example, as interior designers, we're the ones selecting the plumbing fixtures, the tile, the hardwood, we're designing the cabinetry, we're selecting the countertops. We do this day in and day out. We know what brands will align with your investment value. We know, based on the size of the kitchen and the style of kitchen that you want, we know how much that kitchen is going to cost. So we can sort of provide those allowances and merge them in with the contractor's build budget to make sure from the start you're going to have enough money in your intended budget to achieve what you want to do. Your contractor might not necessarily understand your design vision and the products that you're wanting to use, so the allowances that they put in might not actually be what you want is actually going to cost. So this is where our input can come in and benefit.
It's really good, I think, to have the second set of eyes, whether that be the interior designer or the builder or the architect, really looking over each other's work, so that, again, like you said, it's their expertise and their insights. They're making sure that they're being properly represented on your project. So that's what allows you the best success on it. It's a lot of transparency, and it might be a little bit more work at the onset, but definitely a more successful project with less hiccups or less surprises or less going over budget where you weren't able to make that educated decision at the get-go that you wanted to do that and you're taking it from somewhere else, or you just have the extra finances to invest.
Mm-hmm. And, just to piggyback on that or segue, is that the next benefit that this will have is efficiency and streamlined communication between all of your partners and yourself during the project, because we'll all have been at the table from the start. We're all going to fully understand the goal of the project, the design direction, and this will allow for clear communication throughout the project, and it'll facilitate rapid problem solving if any challenges arise. So all in all, it creates a way more efficient process than if everyone's sort of coming in as they're needed.
We've seen it before where the blocks that were put into like a shell plan for an architectural plan, they weren't even to scale. So you think you might be able to fit that king bed in your beautiful primary suite that you're dreaming of, and then when you actually get to the furniture of it, like, those things don't fit, or they don't fit proportionally to leave you enough room for nightstands, and now you have to like customize your nightstand, so there's an added cost there. So the people that will be doing the furniture at the end will be as heavily invested into making sure that this was properly planned out for you, and get you what you are dreaming of.
Yeah, holistic approach.
Yes, we like that one. It makes for a lot of decision making. And we know that some people just want to decide on one element at a time. But when you do that,
it's not organized.
It's not organized. You might overspend here and not leave enough there. So it's, it might be a little bit more daunting, but that's why having experts, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but going through like the proper questions to hire on those experts that you want to work with, you have to trust. You have to develop that trust there, that they're going to be representing your best interests.
Something just came to mind, so having an organic conversation here. But another benefit of that is that all your partners will then know when their involvement is going to be needed, and so you can be in their pipeline. So if you start and you develop your plans with your architect, and then you're like, okay, now I need to find my builder, well, they might not be able to take you on for months. And then you realize, oh, I should be involving an interior designer. Same thing, people get booked up, and so then your timeline is completely disorganized, and you're having to, compromise on the teams that you're selecting based on your timeline. So that's maybe another point that I would consider a benefit.
Agreed.
Okay, a good one. Okay, so we know that we need to find our whole team. How do we ensure that we're picking the right ones? So in here, we want to make sure we're asking the right questions, super important. And in turn, you want to make sure they're asking you the right questions too. If they're not asking questions, it's a red flag. So let's dive into that.
So we often get asked this, and we have a template email that kind of goes out, because sometimes, not everybody that goes into our discovery phase we're the right fit for. Maybe somebody doesn't need complete turnkey, or like I said at the beginning, we specialize in large scale remodels or new builds. So that's not the right fit for everyone. And often people ask, oh, do you have a designer that you can recommend, or do you have any contractors that you can recommend? We always like to say that our projects, we're assembling that dream team, and we're a key component to that. So we don't necessarily recommend specific people, but we like to give a list of questions that you could ask potential contractors or designers or architects. It kind of crosses across the board, I should say. For everybody, these are the check measure that you should be doing. And we like to say that this is the dating phase. So asking the proper questions and being really realistic about who you are, who they are, sets you up for a way better relationship, rather than just dreaming about who they could be.
Yeah, it's the dating phase.
Yeah.
You're dating people, you're interviewing them before you embark in a pretty intimate relationship with them, as large scale projects like this can last 1 to 2 years. So you want to make sure that you jive with the people you're aligning yourself with.
So you can get out your pen and paper or your phone. Experience and qualifications. This is a really important one. How long have you been in business? That's an interesting question. Can you provide references from past clients or examples of completed projects? This they should all be able to do, or you should know that you're hiring somebody that hasn't done a project before and you're just entrusting them with this, and that you're probably going to be heavily involved. 3, are you licensed, insured, and certified as per local requirements? Understanding what those are for yourself, so that when they're giving you an answer, you can gauge whether that's appropriate or not. Can you provide references from past clients? It is really good gauge of somebody's work to speak to a past client. Nobody is perfect. There might be things that arise, whether it was on the client's part or the collaborator's part. As long as at the end of the day, everything was rectified to the person's
Satisfaction.
Yeah, satisfaction. Thank you. That counts for the most. People make mistakes, but it's at the end of the day, they need to be able to own up to it, fix it, sometimes eat the costs on it themselves. There's learning opportunities there. So just being able to have an honest conversation, and also making sure that the type of work that the client that you're speaking to that's giving a reference for that collaborator is the type of work that you're going to be embarking on. So if you're doing a build, that it wasn't just a powder room that they did for them, or architecturally designed for them or whatnot. Are any of their recent or ongoing projects that you can visit ideally finished, so that you can see the finished work? It's really important to have proper structure, but it's also important to see that the quality of the tile finish is going to be what you're hoping for in your home. Again, if somebody was interviewing us and they wanted to see one of our past projects, we have lots of clients that we could call and ask them, at their convenience, could we show a potential client your finished work? And that should be something like you're in a relationship for, like Josée was saying, 1, 2, possibly 3 years if it's a big job. You should be able to call on those people and ask them to show your work. The next one is project management and timelines. How do you typically manage and organize projects to ensure they stay on schedule? It's still a creative field. There's organic things that come up when you're doing a remodel. Sometimes when you get into it, you discover things that you couldn't have possibly known before. So just having those kind of frank conversations of how their communication works, how their timelines work in an ideal situation, what happens when it goes, off, and how do they communicate that with you, and how do they manage that? Do you provide a detailed project timeline, including start and end dates for each phase of the project? Yeah, I've seen it before with friends where they've gotten into projects and they still don't have a timeline. That's like ludicrous. So you need to have these things. You need to have the conversation that they're going to provide you with that, and you need to make sure that you have that before you start construction too from them. So holding people accountable to what they said that they would do is really important. How do you handle delays or unexpected issues that may arise? That kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Cost and budgeting. We talked about this before. Can you provide a detailed estimate of the overall project cost, including labor, materials, and any additional expenses? This is really important. If you have an entire dream team involved, this is going to be reviewed by each collaborator that's on the project. The designer is going to make sure that your tile budgets are actually what you're showing the design team you're trying to achieve. So if, we've got $5 in for a subway tile that's porcelain, and you're really hoping for these beautiful marble slabs, then that's not going to be
representative.
Yeah, that's not going to be a representative budget to you. So again, making sure that those are provided from the get-go, and making sure that those are reviewed either by yourself or your team. The next one is,
will they be sending an updated budget as the project progresses? This is important because a budget is a living thing. It will, things can wax and wane as they're happening. So often if you're doing a new build and you need to, add your mechanical, all of your ducting, that can't always be planned out specifically until the mechanical tradesman is there and executing. So there can be some fluctuation in the allowance that was presented. So what our expectation is that the contractor is updating this budget and sending it to us and to the client as the project progresses.
Yeah, and we don't want to put all the emphasis on just the contractor, because like we said, this is for architects, contractors, designers. Designers should also be able to present you with high-level budgeting too. One, for their services. There's different way that different people charge, but for ours as an example is a fixed fee. So we need to go through that scope development, and we need people to ask us these questions so that we can actually present them with high-level budgeting.
And you want to understand how each team's, what each team's payment schedules are. When are you going to be needing to make payments either for their services or for the materials? A lot of teams do it differently. As we said, we do a fixed fee and we charge percentages of this fixed fee at certain milestones in the project. Some contractors do the same thing. Some contractors bill you at the end of each month, on the 15th of each month. So understanding that is important so that you can plan out your finances and when you need to have the funds in your, ready to make the payment throughout the project.
Yeah, not everybody has liquid cash flow. So making sure that this is properly planned out so that if you have investments and it's going to take, a couple of months to pull out that money, or you're going to incur fees, again, these are just considerations to make. Tell me where I am on this list.
Okay, you want to ask them to describe their scope of work and their deliverable. So you want them to provide a breakdown of what their scope of work is going to be for your project. For example, every team will have a different scope. So the scope is essentially the tasks that they're going to be taking responsibility for during the project. So each team, you want to fully understand what they're going to be doing and make sure there's no overlapping between them, but also make sure that they're not leaving out any specific tasks that you are expecting them to take on.
Yeah, just for example, like procurement, that's a big part of the job. And for our team, because we offer the turnkey service, we take care of procurement and warehousing and quality checking. And if anything comes in damage, taking care of that. That's a lot of hours involved in that. So if that isn't something that's involved in there, then you need to make sure that, one, you have the time to do it. And two, you have the places to store it, because not everywhere will hold on to your products for you. Some places it's like as soon as you order it, and the thing is that you need to have it on site too for when you need it, so you need to order it in a timely manner, else things go out of stock. Then you're storing it at your home. Is there a place there to do it, or do you need to rent out a storage unit? Like, all of these add extra costs, but if you plan that out and the expectations are there, it's not like, you know, at the last hour you're trying to have to sort this out and you're wanting to leave on vacation or do something else. Like, we understand, like, clients have lives, and even though you're embarking on probably the largest investment of your lifetime, life is still going on beyond that.
Yeah. And then you want to ask about their subcontractors and their team. So who is on their team? Who will be working on your project? You know, when it comes to contractors, are they on their staff? Their tradesman? Is a painter on staff, or is it someone that he's subcontracting? That's fine, but you want to make sure that it's someone that they've worked with before, or that they feel confident that can execute on the specifics of your project. You know, if you're doing tile work and there's intricate tile details like mitered edges and whatnot that are involved in the design, you want to make sure that that person has the skills to execute on that.
And we came up with this list because we have preferred collaborators that we work with, but sometimes people will come to us, they already have somebody that they're wanting to work with, and we will vet them. Or we're working outside of Ottawa in another area and we have to vet new contractors. For example, we work in Newfoundland, in the States, we kind of work across North America. So this is the same process that we use to vet new collaborators. And, you know, sometimes it happens where we're walking through one of the job sites and it's in the finishing phases. And a lot of the time, certain trades on a job are not on their staff. So they're using, you know, a different tile guy or a plumber or electrician. And sometimes that relationship isn't working out for them. So it's always nice to ask the question of, you know, were you really happy with the tile guy on this one? Or were you happy with the electrician, blah, blah, blah. And we've had it before where they were, and we were looking at the finished result and it's not up to par. It's not what we would hope for in our projects. So that's a really good indication if they're going to be a right fit for you too. So sometimes it's hard and it's awkward to ask those difficult questions, but this again is a huge investment for you. So like, don't shy away from them now, because you're just going to get into it in your own project down the road and it's going to be way worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, you know, what kind of plays a part with understanding how their team is put together is the communication and updates. Who's going to be your main point of contact throughout the process? Because, for example, Sascha and I look after potential clients that, you know, potentially want to work with West of Main, but that doesn't mean that we're going to be their main point of contact on the project. So understanding that maybe the first person that you're, you know, creating the relationship with initially might not always be who you're going to be speaking to throughout the process. But it's important to know, you know, if I have a specific question, who am I supposed to ask from all of the different teams?
And it's important for you to ask, can I meet them? Because this is the person that I'm actually going to be in a relationship with. Even, for example, when people call to work with our team, oftentimes, yeah, it's Josée or myself talking on the phone, and I'm never the point of contact on any of our projects. So it's important for them to understand that, and then to meet one of our other senior designers like Kayla that they would be in the relationship with. And I can say, you'd much rather have Kayla than myself. But it's for them to meet and have that confidence and that trust. And you want establish that trust at the get-go, because it just makes the process so much smoother. And if you're not going to have that trust, then it's probably because you're not the right fit. So just be real about that.
Yeah, trust is huge. It's key. permits and regulatory compliance, you want to understand who's going to be taking care and taking charge of any permits that are necessary. If there's a conservation association that needs to be involved in the project, if it's a demolition, you need a demolition permit. So there's a lot of like paperwork and admin that's involved in large scale projects like that. So you want to set the tone for who's going to be taking responsibility for those. And then when it comes to warranty and guarantees, same thing. What warranties does each partner offer, and how are they handled afterwards should anything come up?
And cleanup and project completion. Since we're at a remodel home show, this is a really important aspect, because generally in a remodel, if it's not like a full gut, you're going to be having existing pieces stay, and it's really important to see in their scope of work or in their like budgeting that there is care being put to protecting what is existing within your home, whether that's floor cover up or whatnot. There's a cost to that, both in labor and materials. There's also disposal. Is there going to be a what do you call it?
A bin?
Yeah, a bin, thank you. On site, where is it going to go? How is it going to function with your lifestyle too? And then we say, what is the process for final walkthrough and project completion? Just making sure that there is that review where you're going to be able to ask questions, and also have that list of if there is anything that needs to be touched up or whatnot, that is a part of their process.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we didn't have it on here, but
okay. So that's sort of an idea and the topics that you should bring up when you're in that vetting phase of picking all of your partners. These are important topics to just bring up. And I think a lot of these questions will come naturally, but the partners might not offer up this information off the bat. So it's kind of up to you to do your due diligence and ask the questions that matter to you before you engage them.
Yeah, this is the business part, do the business, and then you can kind of get into the creative. And like we said, the tough questions allows you to have that trust and that fun through the process.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a good segue too to, as much as we want to ask the questions to the contractors, we want to make sure they're also asking us the right questions. So let's talk about some of the questions that they should be asking us.
Mm-hmm. This comes up because in the past we've had a call from a client that needed services, because when the architect had rendered what was going to be their home, it was not at all what they thought it was going to be. And in talking to them, they had said, we were never asked for any of these things. They just got right into the project. So it's really important that you're asked certain questions so that you know that what you're getting is custom to your needs and your vision. Mm-hmm. So project goals and objectives. What are your main goals for this project? Do you have specific vision or design concept in mind for the renovation? Whether it's always nice to have visuals. So platforms like Pinterest, even tear out some magazines. If you're a good sketcher, just having something as a visual representation allows you and your collaborator to know that you're on the same page, because sometimes when somebody's explaining something, you can think oh yeah, we're talking the same language, but when you actually see a visual representation, it's not at all aligned. Budget and financial considerations. We talked at long about this, so that's a really important question that they ask you. What is your budget for this project, and how flexible is it? Are there any specific financial constraints or considerations that need to be taken into account? Intended timeline. Do you have a desired completion date or specific deadlines for certain projects or milestones? I remember what I was going to say in the last part. It was also when you're doing your remodel. So for ours, because we focus on large scale ones, all of our clients move out. It is so much better for us. It is so much better for you. Living through a project of that size.
It's not good for anyone's sanity.
No,
and it's not going to
health. They cost a lot more too, because of the cleanup on either side. It's just not good for the relationship. So when you're talking about those budget or constraint? Like, that's a question that somebody should be bringing up with you because it has a huge financial implication. Maybe you have a cottage, maybe you have to rent somewhere, and that rent is going to play an investment into the overall investment for your project too. So rather than assuming that you already know that, make sure that you speak about it. So we do intended timeline. Do you have a desired completion date or specific deadline for certain project? Yeah, we did that. Okay. Usage and lifestyle needs. How do you plan to use the renovated space and what are your lifestyle requirements? Everybody is different. These need to be outlined. Do you have pets, kids, certain desires for it? Are there any specific needs or considerations for family members, such as accessibility requirements? Are you doing, do you want an in-law suite? Some people have, aging parents that are going to be moving in with them eventually. So what is the trajectory for this dream home or dream remodel? Priorities and must-haves. What are the most important aspects of the project for you? Energy efficiency, storage, open concept. This is also good because at the beginning we like to say dream big because we can always scale back. But it's really important to know what the ultimate dream is and to get that out there rather than halfway through the process being what if, and I kind of really want to say this, but I didn't. So I'd rather play it out and see the feasibility of it at the beginning than try introducing it later. Are there any specific features or elements that are non-negotiable for you? This really helps in that priority list when we're thinking of the entire investment and what your wish list is of how to order things that you've requested. Expectations regarding communication. What are your preferred methods and frequency of communication for project updates and discussion? It's good for us to know this. Also, I think a healthy professional firm too will also create this kind of streamlined boundaries with you for proper communication as well, because there is efficiency in certain ways of doing things, and texting a million messages and visuals can seem like it's really helping you get it out there, but having everything in a concise document and email thread is much better for people to kind of be able to go back on and reference and all that. So again, it's nice to say it, but it's also, I think, the professional firm's responsibility to tell you what the most efficient operating processes will be. So be open to that as well. Are there any specific concerns or expectations regarding communication during the project? So again, maybe you've worked with somebody before, and this is your opportunity to kind of bring up those points of what you're hoping to achieve in this one. Collaboration. Design preferences. We have a questionnaire which we call the client program, and this is what we send to everyone. This is kind of a nice streamlined version of all of that, and it allows you the time in a relaxed setting to be able to answer all of the questions that we need. So that's always nice to get from a collaborator. Mm-hmm. You can make that suggestion if they don't have one.
It's the most important homework that we give to our clients at the front end, and we constantly are editing this client program and asking new questions as we have new projects that come up. And it'll ask you questions like, what's your lifestyle? What's your personality traits? Are you decisive, or are you going to be needing a little bit more hand-holding throughout the project? Are you visual, or do you need to be shown a 3D of everything?
And we like to say too, it's kind of like a dating profile, and it's good to have somebody that knows you really well review it, because again, it's not who you want to be, but it's who you are that you should be representing.
When people think that they're very decisive and that they're going to be able to make their decision straight away, but a lot of people aren't, and a lot of people will discover that as they're going through the process. So we have created this program in a way that we can ask little questions to build our intuition about okay, I know how this person is, and then we can then build our contract and our scope of work based on how much involvement the client is going to have.
It's intimate. You're doing a bathroom renovation, we need to know your toilet that you want, and some people want the royal flush and others don't. So it's like you're going to be in this relationship for a while, so kind of have to get that awkwardness out of the way and get real, so that you get what you actually want. And we collaborators can't read your mind. So again, like a great relationship, a therapist would say, express yourself.
And yeah, so this questionnaire also like prompts our clients to ask themselves things that they might not have already asked themselves or considered yet. Like, oh yeah, what do I want in terms of I don't know, my needs? And I do have a pet. What do I want? How do I want to involve my pet that I love so much into this? Do I want a dog shower? Do they want a built-in dog bowl or whatnot? So these are things that, you know, can happen. And when you're designing your dream home, thinking through and understanding what all your options are is really helpful.
I love the closet one because it's like, how much percentage of the closet does your husband get?
Yeah.
Is it 25? Is it 50? Is it 10?
Or does he need his own closet separate?
That's great, guys. Essentially, get clear about what your needs are and what does a successful collaboration look like to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it comes down to for a successful project.
It's my favorite question to ask people. It's like, what does it look like to you? And you can tell a lot by their replies. Some people have a long-winded reply. Some people have, you know, point forms, short little things. So you can tell how you know, what their personality is from this question too.
That's right. Okay, so we're looking for a team. Number one was the first thing. Number two, we asked the questions, they asked us questions. Number three, know your budget and your wish list. We told you we'd come back to budget, and here we are. Let's talk about it a little bit more.
It's a hot topic.
It's a hot topic.
We always push to understand our clients' ceiling budget from the start before we even sign on to a project. And whether you know what your budget should be or not, you're always going to know what you are able to invest and what your financial constraints might be.
Yeah, people say they don't want to give it because then you're just going to spend it. But isn't this the opportunity to know what you're willing to invest and what you can get for that?
Mm-hmm.
And shouldn't we be trusting the collaborators that we are going to embark on this journey with? So finding that fit where you can trust and then divulging that information is really crucial to the success of your project.
Will allow us for realistic planning. So it's not just going to be, you know, a number up in the air. We're going to take that number and we're going to disperse the funds, you know, in collaboration with all the other partners so that you can get everything that you want. And it just sets the foundation for a transparent and working relationship that you're embarking on. So having an overview of your finances before you start on the project, or just an idea, then, you know, your collaborators will come in and they'll help you understand what things cost and how much your budget should be. But if you have a ceiling, then we'll work backwards from there.
Because we say you're either going to, if you've got your wish list and your budget, you're either going to decrease your wish list or increase your budget. There's really only two options there.
And so that gets us to, you know, our next point, which is you need to know your master wish list. Actually take the time to think about everything that you would love. And we suggest that you sort of separate out that wish list by need to have and nice to have. And that allows us to understand what your priorities are and, you know, focus on the most important aspects of your needs, and then match that with your available budget and then work from there.
Yeah, and having ultimately a clear understanding of your budget, your wish list, will just create a more efficient decision-making and cost management. And then you'll achieve a better design that brings your vision to life and within the financial parameters of what you've already done in the onset of the project.
Yeah, and a lot of people can say, like, I don't know what this should cost. And so it's like you have to start somewhere, and then the collaborators that you're going to work with For example, with us, like when we take a discovery call on and somebody is painting the picture of what their wish list, what they're hoping to do, what their budget is going to be, then we have a scope of work phase. We charge for this because we want to make sure that both parties are equally invested, and it's very like time consuming coming up with those high level budgets to paint a picture of what something like this would cost and whether people's wish lists and their budgets are aligned, or being able to have those educated conversations. Some people charge for that, some people don't. Ours is very custom to what you're trying to achieve. So we feel like just the scope of work development leaves you with a very informed, high level idea of what you can do for what you want to invest. But yeah.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, this one's my favorite. Plan everything out before the work starts. Not during construction, but before. So every firm's a little different, but we do everything beforehand. And can you guys tell us a little bit about that planning phase, our involvement, what that should look like, and why it's so important?
So you might think that there's already been a lot of work that was done before even signing on to the project, which is true because that was all the business aspect of it. Now we know what the wish list is. Everybody is aligned with the wish list and what their overall and budget is going to be, investment, and who the collaborators are going to be on the project. That's a lot of planning just in itself, but that really helps that when you get into the planning phase, it's really the creative phase. So that's when, for example, our team, we get into concept development. So because we've done the client program, we understand like what your vision for the project is, what your wish list for the project is. That concept is where we're really aligning what we understand of your project and your needs with some visual representation. So mood boards that are going to show even like finished palettes, zoning plans too, where it's like the skeleton of a space. So it's going to show use and function of space and kind of like overall square footage and layout of project. Again, this is done in a conceptual way because it's really important to establish that we are actually aligned before we dive into all of the construction packages. Because the minute you go and have to do all of the construction packages and specifications, it's a lot of legwork, and you don't want to be doing that phase. You don't want to be over designing that part before you've made sure, again, you've solidified that everybody is on the same page in terms of look and feel and use of space. Because even though you think you might be aligned, we've had it before in concept phase where somebody has told us like, this is the look that I'm really wanting to do. And when we're doing the concept presentation, they're actually like, well, actually it's this project. I don't want a light and bright kitchen. I actually want something more moody, and I want more like glam elements coming through it. So although you've done this whole client program and all of this homework at the beginning, the concept phase really allows you to dive in deeper and solidify and clarify what you really want out of this project. So a conceptual visual representation, again, of shell plans, of mood boards is a really important phase before you get to like the overall presentation. Mm-hmm. And then from there, again, all your collaborators are involved in that planning phase too, because once you get into the construction package and you're doing all of your specifications, we have an overall investment that you're wanting to
design within.
Exactly. And so when you are going to be presenting a package, you want to make sure that all of the pricing is coming along with that presentation so that everything is aligned, so that you don't fall in love with this overall design and then your next step is to go and get it priced out. Like those two things, if you want a holistic approach, should be happening hand in hand. So again, that planning phase makes sure that all of those decisions that need to be made on a project, whether that's, the windows that are going in, the lighting, the plumbing fixtures, where you're going to have your electrical, the tile, the layout of it, all of that stuff is presented in a construction package with visual representation. This is what you're doing in planning phase so that when you get into the construction phase, all of those decisions have already been made, and they're not being made piecemeal, because you're more likely to go over budget or not get the vision that you want if you're just making decision by decision, because again, it's not a holistic of looking at how everything is going to play together, one, financially, and also two, aesthetically. So again, this is all in the planning phase, because you also need to order these pieces. Like we talked about the procurement phase. Generally for us, we're trying to, it depends, there's different timelines on all sorts of different finishes and whatnot, but they have to be ordered before construction starts. Otherwise, you're going to incur so many more fees too in your construction, and your timeline on your project is going to be extended. So it might seem like that's a lot of decisions to make all at once, and I'm just comfortable making like these two, and then I'll decide on the cabinetry element of it later down the road. But they all have a domino effect, and it's much more successful to everybody if they know what the entire package looks like, even for the builder, because then they're going to price to that, and then you can hold people accountable to all of that too, because it's like the roadmap of where you're going. It's your contract with everyone too. So if you decide to do a scope change, that's because you decided that, not because you're introducing something different down the road, because you're making those decisions one by one. So proper planning, much better execution, and installation phase.
And just to give an idea, like on a full remodel of a home, the planning phase for us is about 4 to 6 months, and then on the new construction it can be 6 to 9 months of just planning, because there's so many things involved. A lot of people that are coming in and providing them with their own quotes. So for example, like all of the cabinetry, all of the countertops, those are like outside of our control, how long those collaborators are going to take to get back to us with the quote. So to have everything finalized in one package takes that amount of time. So start thinking about that early on, and understand like how long it can take to plan it out. But the benefit of planning it out first is worth that front end work and heaviness, because then once the implementation starts, you're good to go. There's nothing for you to do except for following, at certain milestones, do your site visits, make your, payments as per the schedule, but you're not having to make what we call fire drill decisions of like, oh shoot, the plumber is coming next week and I haven't bought my faucets. That's just not a smooth process.
Well, yeah, it delays everything, costs you more. So we like
Stressful.
to say, like, your planning phase, you might see that as long, 4 to 6 months, but then your execution phase on a renovation is much shorter than anyone else's. So you're going to spend the time somewhere. I'd much rather spend it in the planning phase. Well, it's a lot more comfortable and less stressful than in the middle of a renovation, especially if you're like renting somewhere, but you've only got this amount of time that you're renting, or you sold your other house, and you got to be in by then. It's like that happens to a lot of people too, and that's not an ideal situation.
So plan before.
Exactly. That was great, you guys. We know that's a lot of information. Quick little recap. Essentially, this is all you need to take away from this. Number 1, assemble your team, your dream team. Number 2, ask the right questions. Have them ask the right questions, that dating phase. Number 3, know your budget and your wish list. And number 4, plan everything out beforehand. And we've spent the last decade really refining that process. And we've learned all of these things and put together a process that's really seamless and enjoyable for our clients. And it relieves the stress from the homeowners and ensures a successful project. So that turnkey client experience means that we're assembling the dream team. We're setting realistic expectations with you and our collaborators. We understand the time that's required, and we look after all aspects of your projects, essentially. Like we're here to help you throughout the entire process.
And our team's involvement is a lot more than a lot of other design firms, perhaps. And there is an investment that is reflected in our design fee. But the benefit of that and of having a team like ours on your project gives you that hands-off experience. And a lot of our clients aren't even in the country while their project is taking place. There's that trust that, we've been called the quarterbacks of the project before. We're going to push and we're going to make sure that everything is taken care of and have your best interests at heart at the same time. And so a lot of our clients will reach out to us first. They love our style. Our service seems like something that would be, ideal for them and their lifestyle. And then from there, we can assemble the dream team. We have preferred contractors that we work with. We've worked with for a decade, and we speak the same language as them. There's so much efficiency in that collaboration. Same with architects, engineers, anybody that needs to be involved, landscapers, anybody.
Counter suppliers, it takes time to develop these relationships and to make sure that quality control is across the board. And so that's why we were able to refine the vetting list too that we just provided you guys with, because we've lived it. Yeah, we've lived it. And sometimes your worst relationships, they do, if you allow them to, create the most opportunity for growth and boundaries. And that's what has happened in our evolution.
And then if the full service or turnkey service isn't quite right for you, or you're not necessarily needing that level of service during that phase of the project that you're in, we also offer hourly consultations, virtual hourly consultations through the platform The Experts, where you guys can meet one-on-one with Sascha and Josée. So you can find us on The Expert.
Mm-hmm. Often, if you're already embarked on your renovation and you're in that phase, maybe that oh shoot, the plumber's coming next week and I haven't picked my things. Often, that is when someone will book a session with us. They'll come prepared with all of their questions. They'll come prepared with maybe 3 or 4, faucets. And they're like, I don't know which one to pick. I'm decision fatigued. I need someone to just, even sometimes just give me a little pat on the back that yes, I'm going in the right direction. So often the clients leave the session feeling a lot more confident in, the decisions that they're going to be making, or they're just, starting off the process and they're able to do the legwork themselves, but they don't know where to start. So some sessions are, just a conversation with people on how to approach their project, where to go, what brands do we use. So we're just sharing our knowledge. So essentially during that hour, you can pick our brains about absolutely anything that you want.
I just did one this week, and beautiful home that a woman was doing herself. Huge journey to embark on, as we just told you about, but she just needed some extra reassurance with all of the lighting that was going throughout the house. And just for example, she had vaulted ceilings and she was going to be putting these pendants there, but they didn't have pivot points on them. So if she had purchased those ones, sometimes you can't return them, or it's just a process in doing that. So just an easy flag like that alleviates that issue for her, and being able to source something that would be applicable. It's little learning things that we've been through, that we can provide those insights, or again, collaborators to work with. So countertops, tile or whatnot, because it's not always just about, it's never just about the product. It is also about the customer service that's going to come with that product, about the installation team, because you can have beautiful countertops, but if you have, I like to call it a toothpaste theme, it's terrible. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. And so this has been a beneficial service that we've been offering to clients that need a designer's advice, but either doesn't need it in a turnkey capacity, or maybe their budget doesn't allow for us to be involved in a turnkey capacity, but we can still, give you that advice that you need.
Yeah. And lastly, we're sitting on this stage where all of the furniture is from our showroom here in Ottawa. And so when it comes to remodels and builds, our focus is large scale, turnkey, full service. But when it comes to furniture, which we truly believe a house is not a home until it's furnished with all the layers and the details that really make it feel warm, we have a more approachable service, which we've got a 1 hour consultation where you can invest into a $400 gift card, and then that also goes towards your purchase in the store, but you get to meet with a design consultant and make sure what you're investing into is going to work for your space and what you're envisioning. And then we also have kind of smaller projects where it's more of a deposit where we come up with an allowance. All parties are agreed that this investment is going to yield what you're trying to achieve, and we'll do one room, a couple rooms, an entire house. So when it comes to the furniture, there's a little bit more of a scaling service that we offer at the shop or showroom.
Yeah. And so if you're in the process of a remodel and you're in the tail end and now you're about to tackle the furniture, then feel free to reach out to us, and there might be an opportunity for us and our team to help you out and put those finishing layers onto your newly renovated home.
Thank you very much for being with us. We really appreciate it. Hope you found this insightful. And if you're not already following us, please do. We have a beautiful Instagram page. We'd love to see you there. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Yes.
Oh, 1 sec. In a remodeling project, should we have extra insurance should something go wrong?
Your teams will have their own insurance in terms of liabilities for the work that's being done. But one thing that you can do on your own is plan for a contingency in your budget in case your home has asbestos or you need a new roof, turns out, because in the remodel you don't always know what's behind your walls, and so until you actually demo it. So we always account for at least 10% contingency depending on the complexity of the project, the age of the home. And so that is how I would say that you can have your own insurance in a way to keep up with that.
You should contact your insurance broker though, because your value of what you're doing is going to increase the value of your home. So they need to know that so that you're insured for that change.
Yes, because at one time we were in a home where we were there only 6 months, but we needed the bathroom renovated. They renovated it, but not according to standards.
Yeah.
So we were left out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you do a backyard upgrade, kitchen, anything like that, your insurance for your home needs to represent that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
1 sec. False alarm.
My husband and I were renovating our whole house. So the only way we can afford to do that is to do all the work ourselves, most of the work ourselves. Would there be room for you to, sometimes we hit roadblocks in the kitchen layouts, for example. We have all the fixtures and the countertops and everything, but we're having a difficult time putting it all together and putting everything in the right place, making sure all the bits and pieces are taken into consideration, or do you only get involved in large jobs?
So I would say that the virtual hourly consulting might be a good option for you so that you can get our advice and, then finalize your project with confidence. So if you want, after, I can come by and we can chat. I can give you my card and you can email me and we can have a phone call together, get an understanding of where you're at and what you would be needing from us, and see if that virtual consultation would be a good fit for you before you invest into it, and also help you know how to prepare for that session so that you can make the most out of it. So I'll come by and see you after, okay?
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.